Welcome to Valid History. Here, old photos tell real stories from the past. Please subscribe, like, and share to help keep history alive. Deep in the heart of Kentucky during 1946, a 60-year-old man stands proudly with his family of three, capturing a quiet moment of American resilience and the enduring strength of the domestic bond. Beneath the French sky in 1978, Ayatollah Khomeini sits in a reflective exile, a powerful figure whose presence in Europe would soon ignite a revolution that changed the course of Iranian history forever. In 1920, Mary Ann Bevan courageously entered an English beauty contest of cruelty to feed her children, proving that a mother's love and sacrifice are far more beautiful than any physical grace could ever be. Hidden within the frozen Finnish wilderness of 1940, the legendary sniper known as the White Death remains a chilling shadow, credited with taking over 500 lives during one of history's most brutal winter conflicts. Amidst the chaos of central Iraq in 2003, a Navy corpsman cradles a frightened child, offering a flicker of human compassion after a tragic crossfire tore an innocent family apart on the dusty front lines. High above the iconic dome of St. Paul's Cathedral in 1940, the skies of London become a deadly arena as RAF and Luftwaffe pilots engage in a desperate struggle for survival during the relentless Blitz. In 1955, the devastating weight of war settles on a German mother as she weeps upon learning her son will never return from a Soviet labor camp, a heartbreaking portrait of a life shattered. Crouched within a muddy trench on a September morning in 1940, British children watched the aerial dogfights of the Great War, their youthful innocence contrasting sharply with the violent machinery of battle spinning overhead. In the shadows of a Vietnam prison, Stug Hegdahl cleverly feigned illiteracy to outsmart his captors, secretly memorizing the names of hundreds of fellow prisoners to ensure their stories would eventually reach the world. Under the golden sun of Jaffa around 1910, Arab and Jewish neighbors work side by side in the orange groves, capturing a rare and peaceful moment of shared labor before the tides of history shifted. Amidst the jagged ruins of Cologne in 1945, a solitary woman sits in the dust of a fallen city, embodying the quiet, haunting stillness that follows the total destruction of a once great European civilization. Standing before a firing squad in 1944, German infiltrators dressed in American uniforms face the ultimate price for their deception, a grim reminder of the high stakes and deadly risks of wartime espionage operations. On a dark day in 1943, the tragic execution of Sergeant Leonard Siflete was captured on film, serving as a brutal testament to the courage of soldiers who faced their final moments with unwavering dignity. In 1955, the legendary Ella Fitzgerald sits calmly in a Houston jail cell, having been arrested for the simple act of singing to an integrated audience, a powerful stance against the walls of segregation. On a Belgrade street in 1988, a unique standoff occurs as a zoo director attempts to negotiate with an escaped chimpanzee, creating a surreal moment of tension between the human world and the wild. Long before he conquered Hollywood, a young Mel Brooks served his country in 1944, trading his comedic wit for a soldier's uniform to help defeat the rising tide of tyranny across the European theater. An elderly man stopped in Michigan in 2011 appeared merely disoriented. Yet police soon discovered that Leo Sharp was actually a prolific drug mule, carrying a massive fortune for the world's most dangerous cartel. At the Nuremberg trials, an inexperienced hangman named John Woods used techniques learned from cinema, resulting in a series of botched executions that left the condemned Nazi officials suffering long after the trapdoors opened. What began as a $600 car in 2008 became a $100,000 nightmare for a Chicago woman after her former boyfriend abandoned the vehicle to rot at the busy O'Hare Airport. In 1939, a young Christopher Lee watched from a Versailles crowd as Eugen Weidmann faced the guillotine, marking the very last time the French public would ever witness the falling blade of state execution. Forced from their homes by a 1942 executive order, a Japanese-American mother and her baby wave a bittersweet goodbye, beginning a journey into the harsh reality of wartime internment camps across the country. Regal and tragic, Queen Genapil stands as the final consort of Mongolia before she was executed in 1938 during Stalin's ruthless purges, marking the violent end of a royal lineage and a nation's tradition. Outside a school in 2004, the survivors of the Beslan siege cling to one another in a state of profound shock, finding comfort in each other's arms after enduring an unimaginable ordeal of terror. Before its demolition in 1955, the old Cincinnati Library stood as a towering cathedral of knowledge, featuring magnificent multi-story bookshelves that once inspired generations of readers within its grand, labyrinthine halls of stone. Long ago, adventurous tourists were free to scale the ancient stones of the Great Pyramid of Giza, standing atop the world's oldest wonder to witness an Egyptian sunset from a truly prohibited perspective. Roaring through the streets of Brooklyn in the 1930s, a local tricycle gang claims the sidewalk as their own, capturing a charming and spirited moment of urban childhood during a much simpler era. During the 1950s, the celebration of Easter took on a surprisingly eerie tone as children posed with tall, haunting rabbit costumes that seemed more like characters from a fever dream than symbols of spring. In the year 1886, a peculiar English contraption promised a scientific cure for the common headache, illustrating the strange and often imaginative lengths Victorian society would go to find relief from daily pain. Against a stark backdrop in 1988, the ethereal Tilda Swinton gazes into the lens, capturing a moment of raw, avant-garde beauty that defines her early career and marks the beginning of a truly legendary cinematic journey. Witness the birth of a legend in 1928 as a real lion roars for the MGM cameras, proving that before the age of digital effects, Hollywood relied on nerves of steel to create movie magic. Perched high above the Italian streets in 1928, brave drivers test their speed on a rooftop racetrack, a breathtaking feat of engineering and daring that turned a factory ceiling into a high-speed skyward arena. Emerging like a sea monster from the depths off the Jersey coast in 1933, this colossal manta ray stunned the world, reminding us that the vast ocean still holds mysteries far beyond our wildest scientific imaginations. Floating through the silent void in 1957, Laika, the Soviet space dog, became a pioneer of the stars, making the ultimate sacrifice for human exploration in a journey from which she would never truly return home. Amidst the heavy march of soldiers in New Westminster in 1940, a young boy breaks rank to reach for his father's hand, creating a heartbreaking image of innocence caught in the shadow of global war. Safety takes a strange and haunting form in 1938 as an English mother pushes a gas-resistant pram, a chilling reminder of how the looming threat of chemical warfare reshaped the most basic joys of parenthood. In the dusty heat of 1980, a starving boy reaches out with a skeletal hand in Uganda, a devastating image that forced the world to look directly into the eyes of a desperate humanitarian crisis. Mist rises over the dark Scottish waters in 1934, where a grainy silhouette sparked a global obsession, fueling the enduring legend of the Loch Ness Monster and the secrets hidden beneath the deep, cold waves. Frozen in a flash of power in 1965, Muhammad Ali towers over a fallen Sonny Liston, capturing the most electric moment in sports history as the young champion cemented his status as the absolute greatest. Fire tears through the evening sky in 1937 as the mighty Hindenburg collapses in New Jersey, a horrifying spectacle of hydrogen and steel that brought the era of the great passenger airships to an end. During the crushing hyperinflation of the Weimar Republic, our German children stack worthless banknotes like common building blocks, turning a national economic catastrophe into a surreal playground of paper wealth that held no actual value. Smoke billows across the deck of a carrier during the World War II as an aircraft crashes in a tangle of metal, showing the constant, deadly peril faced by pilots serving on the front lines. In the heart of Union Square during 1917, the wooden battleship USS. A recruit stands as a bold landmark for the Navy, drawing in young volunteers to serve their country during the Great War's height. Defying physical limitations in 1890, Charles Tripp and Eli Bowen master the tandem bicycle with incredible grace, proving that the human spirit and determination can overcome any obstacle through the power of a unique partnership. Deep beneath the streets of London in 1940, families seek refuge in the Aldwych Underground Station, finding a sense of community and quiet safety while the Blitz rains destruction down upon the city above. Against the smoke of battle on February 23, 1945, 5 Marines and a Navy corpsman raised the American flag on Mount Suribachi, creating an immortal symbol of victory and sacrifice on the island of Iwo Jima. Hidden behind a secret wall in their Harlem watch shop, Corrie ten Boom and her family risked everything in 1940 to shield their Jewish neighbors from the darkness of the invading forces in the Netherlands. In the shadow of liberation near Hanover in 1945, a compassionate Red Cross nurse provides vital medicine to a concentration camp survivor, marking the slow and painful beginning of a journey toward healing and hope. The eccentric world of Grey Gardens was unveiled to audiences in 1976, exposing the crumbling glamour and complex bond of the two Edith Beals in a documentary that changed the landscape of American independent filmmaking. Driving through the rugged Oregon landscape in 1931, 5 teenage girls find freedom in an old Ford, capturing a spirited moment of youth and adventure during the difficult years of the American Great Depression. With his future etched permanently into his skin, an unemployed worker reveals a Social Security tattoo during the Great Depression, a desperate attempt to ensure he would never be lost to the system again. On a sidewalk in 1945, a stylish brother and sister pose proudly in Chicago, showcasing the vibrant fashion and resilient spirit of a community finding joy and dignity in the wake of the war. Buses and cars navigate the bustling, fog-filled streets of London in 1937, capturing the frantic energy and classic architecture of a historic city standing on the very brink of a transformative and difficult era. Standing beside the massive F-1 engines in Alabama, Dr. Von Braun gazes at the sheer power required to reach the moon, reminding us of the incredible engineering that fueled the ambitious Saturn V rocket. A heartbreaking sign in 1948, Chicago offers 4 children for sale, revealing the utter desperation of a family facing eviction and joblessness during a time of profound economic struggle for the working class. Clad in a jacket far too large, a 16-year-old German anti-aircraft gunner weeps after his capture in 1945, revealing the tragic face of a childhood lost to the final desperate months of the war. With a look of sheer determination and modern flair, a woman masters her new tricycle in 1882, embracing a newfound sense of mobility and independence that was beginning to sweep through Victorian society's streets. Renowned author Charles Dickens shares a quiet moment with his daughters Mamie and Katie, offering a rare and intimate glimpse into the private family life of the man who defined 19th century English literature. Across the newly built Berlin Wall in 1961, residents lift their children high so grandparents in the East can catch a glimpse, a poignant display of family bonds enduring despite a city divided by politics. Flanked by a cheerful Donald Duck in 1984, Hillary, Bill, and a young Chelsea Clinton share a rare moment of light-hearted family fun long before their lives were fully consumed by the national political stage. Neon lights bathe Fremont Street in a vibrant glow in 1978, capturing the vintage glitz and restless energy of Las Vegas before the era of mega resorts transformed the famous desert skyline into something new. Deep within a dusty cavern on a movie set, the world of Indiana Jones comes to life, where meticulous craftsmanship and imaginative design recreate the ancient mysteries that thrilled audiences across the entire globe. Crowded together in 1920, four friends lean in for a pioneering selfie, in proving that the universal human desire to capture a shared moment of joy transcends the technology of any specific era or generation. In the muddy trenches of France during 1918, brave nurses tend to the wounded in makeshift hospital wards, providing comfort and care amidst the brutal conditions and constant shelling of the First World War. Dressed in a formal top hat and seated in a 1905 locomobile, the legendary Geronimo makes a striking appearance, symbolizing the complex and often jarring intersection of traditional indigenous culture and the modern world. Deep in the rising floodwaters of Cambridge in 1974, Officer John Shuttleworth stands waist-high against the current, embodying the selfless dedication of first responders who brave the elements to keep their communities safe during a crisis. Clutching a rifle with a steady gaze, a female IRA fighter stands as a defiant symbol of the 1970s conflict, representing the complex and often invisible roles women played on the front lines of political struggle. Surrounded by the warmth of his wife and children, the legendary Bruce Lee reveals a rare, tender side of his life, proving that behind the world's greatest martial artist was a devoted and loving family man. Standing proudly beside a towering stack of Apollo guidance software in 1969, Margaret Hamilton gazes at the code that would eventually land humans on the moon, cementing her legacy as a true pioneer of computer science. In the sun-drenched streets of 1947 Los Angeles, Lovey Yancey launched the original Mr. Fatburger, turning a small burger stand into an American cultural landmark that would eventually satisfy cravings across the entire nation for decades. Wearing a tray for a hat and a cup for a nose, Willard Scott debuted as the first Ronald McDonald in 1963, introducing a whimsical character that would soon become a global icon of fast food magic. Under the tropical sun of Honolulu in 1935, a young Shirley Temple delights the crowd with a spirited hula dance, while capturing the world's heart with her boundless charm and the innocent joy of a child superstar. In a feat of engineering that silenced a natural wonder, the Army Corps of Engineers stopped the flow of Niagara Falls in 1969, revealing a rocky landscape hidden for centuries beneath the thunderous and powerful white water. Standing before a massive blackboard covered in complex equations, NASA scientists in 1961 map out the future of human spaceflight, where every handwritten calculation brought the United States one step closer to reaching the distant stars. Suspended high above the streets of Paris in 1932, brave workers carefully apply fresh paint to the Eiffel Tower, proving that maintaining an international icon requires nerves of steel and a truly breathtaking sense of balance. In the bustling heart of 1865 Paris, a young boy pauses near a street-front pissoir, offering a candid glimpse into the city's evolving urban landscape as modern sanitation began to change the daily lives of its citizens. Streaking through the night with a vibrant neon glow, Goodyear's experimental illuminated tires lit up the streets in 1961, a futuristic invention that turned a simple drive into a dazzling display of mid-century American automotive innovation. Holding the iron rod that changed medical history, Phineas Gage stands as a living miracle in 1850, having survived a horrific accident that drove a metal spike through his brain and challenged everything science knew. Defying the odds and soaring through the cold Calgary air, Eddie the Eagle captured the world's imagination at the 1988 Winter Olympics, proving that the true spirit of sport lies in the courage to simply compete. In a somber Paris hall in 1925, veterans of the Great War gathered for the Banquet of the Mutilated Faces, a powerful tribute to the soldiers whose visible scars served as a lasting testament to sacrifice. Long before he was a cinematic legend, a 10-year-old Marlon Brando displays a hint of the rebellious spirit and intensity that would one day transform him into one of the most influential actors in Hollywood history. Breaking down barriers with a simple act of kindness, Mr. Rogers shared a cooling footbath with Officer Clemens in 1969, sending a quiet but profound message of racial equality to millions of children watching at home. Forced to march 1,700 miles across the American wilderness in 1848, Biddy Mason endured unimaginable hardship before eventually winning her freedom in California and becoming a respected entrepreneur and a dedicated philanthropist for her community. Leaving behind her quiet Scottish village in 1930, 18-year-old Mary Ann McLeod arrived in New York with $50 and a dream, never imagining she would one day become the mother of an American president. Cars lined the curb of a quiet Pennsylvania street in 1941, capturing a final moment of peaceful American life just before the nation was swept into the global turmoil and shared sacrifice of the Second World War. Laughter echoes through the streets of 1948 Brooklyn as local kids turn the city sidewalk into their own personal playground. I'm finding joy in simple games during a vibrant era of post-war neighborhood life and community. Seated proudly in his very first motorized creation in 1898, Louis Renault ignites the spark of a global automotive empire, marking the humble beginning of a journey that would eventually revolutionize transportation for the entire world. With an elegant hat and a timeless gaze, a beautiful woman from 1912 embodies the sophisticated grace of the Edwardian era, capturing a fleeting moment of style just before the world was changed by modern conflict. Perched precariously on a stone gargoyle high above New York in 1935, photographer Margaret Bourke White braves the heights of the Chrysler Building to capture the soaring spirit of a city that was reaching for the clouds. On a busy corner of 125th Street in 1946, a soldier pauses for a quick shoe shine, reflecting the quiet dignity and steady transition of millions of young men returning home to rebuild their lives in NYC. Years before her television fame, a young Bea Arthur proudly served as a truck driver in the Marine Corps during the World War II, showcasing the grit and patriotism that defined a generation of American women. During his historic run for the presidency, John F. Kennedy addressed the nation with poise, are tackling religious controversies head-on to ensure that his faith would not overshadow his profound commitment to serving all American citizens. Months before the Titanic fell, the Sultana suffered a catastrophic boiler explosion on the Mississippi in 1865, creating a haunting maritime tragedy that remains one of the deadliest and most overlooked disasters in all of history. Covered in the dust and wear of 2 days of brutal combat, our Marine Private Theodore Miller climbs aboard his ship in 1944, his weary expression telling the silent story of the harrowing struggle on Eniwetok Atoll. Watching with hope and pride on a cold morning in 1986, the family of Krista McAuliffe witnessed the Challenger's final ascent, a heartbreaking moment that turned a scientific triumph into a deeply felt national tragedy. Through the halls of ancient Persia, the notorious Xerxes pursued a life of scandal and excess, leaving behind a legacy of power and controversy that continues to fascinate historians and storytellers thousands of years later. Born in a humble Kentucky log cabin in 1809, Abraham Lincoln rose from obscurity to lead a divided nation through its darkest hour, forever enshrining his legacy as the great emancipator who preserved the American Union. Stepping into the sunlight after 27 years of captivity in 1990, Nelson Mandela walked toward freedom with a smile that ignited a global movement for justice, marking the beginning of a new era for South Africa. High above the clouds in 2016, a failed terrorist plot turned into a surreal moment of justice when a mid-air blast sucked the bomber out of the fuselage, leaving the remaining passengers to land safely. Caught in a whirlwind of Hollywood scandal and young love, 16-year-old Bo Derek began a lifelong journey with her director, John Derek, recently reflecting on the complex truths behind the film set that started it all. Drenched in the sweat of survival, pilot Victor Vizcarra stands in the Vietnam jungle in 1966 after ejecting from his burning fighter, a haunting testament to the narrow line between life and death in the sky. Determined to help his overweight dog, George H.W. Bush issued a humorous White House memo in 1992, officially banning staff from feeding treats to Ranger to ensure the presidential pup stayed healthy and fit for duty. Following his mother's death in 1989, legendary actor Michael Caine discovered a long-hidden family secret that cast her quiet strength in a new light, revealing a lifetime of silent sacrifice he had never fully realized before. Braving the brutal winter of the Eastern Front, a German soldier stands wrapped in a reversible padded parka, a stark visual of the harsh conditions and heavy gear required to survive the deadliest theaters of the war. In the dust-blown landscape of 1939 Oklahoma, children of a tenant farmer share a meager meal of bread and gravy, capturing the quiet dignity and hunger that defined the struggle of the American Great Depression. Standing tall together after the guns fell silent, 10 brothers celebrate their incredible luck as they all returned home safely from World War II, a miraculous story of family resilience in a time of global loss. 3 legends of the silver screen, Moore, Connery, and Caine, share a rare and candid moment of friendship, embodying the suave charm and enduring talent that defined the golden era of British cinema for entire generations. With a wrench in hand and her husband away at the front in 1944, a determined mother masters the family car, proving that the strength of the home front was built on the grit of women. Relaxing at his Kent home in the 1930s, Winston Churchill shares a quiet afternoon with his children, a rare glimpse into the private life of the man who would soon lead Britain through its finest hour. Suspended by a single cable high above the Manhattan skyline in 1948, a fearless window washer polishes the glass of the Empire State Building, turning a dizzying height into just another routine day at the office. With intricate tattoos and a powerful presence, Mori Chief Tomika Temutu stands as a guardian of his culture in the late 19th century, his gaze reflecting the deep history and proud spirit of his people. Before the Colorado River flooded the canyon, the towering face of the Hoover Dam stood as a dry concrete marvel in 1936, showcasing the monumental scale of human ambition and the engineering that tamed the West. Transitioning from the dusty trails to the open sky, horse-delivered mail is loaded onto an airmail flight in 1926 Las Vegas, marking the exciting moment when the Old West met the future of rapid communication. Born with a unique physical gift, Francisco Lentini, the three-legged wonder, traveled the world and inspired millions with his grace and charm, proving that true wonder lies in how we embrace our most extraordinary traits. In the fashionable heart of 1920 Paris, a stylish couple strolls past a classic street lamp, capturing the vibrant elegance and artistic spirit that made the city the world's most romantic and modern cultural capital. Suspended safely above the ground in a 1930s playpen, a curious toddler gazes out at the world, showcasing a vintage and rather adventurous approach to childcare that seems both charming and slightly terrifying by today's standards. Surrounded by a web of electrical discharge in 1899, Nikola Tesla sits calmly beside his massive high-frequency transmitter, a visionary scientist literally playing with lightning in his quest to power the world through the air. The Michigan madman E.J. Potter roars to life on his Chevy 5 8-powered Whizzer, a wild and dangerous feat of backyard engineering that turned a simple motorbike into a fire-breathing beast of raw speed and power. With a gaze as captivating as her future career, a young Mia Farrow poses in 1965, capturing the ethereal beauty and quiet intensity that would soon make her one of the most beloved actresses of her generation. Shadows stretch across the floor of a Wyoming saloon in the late 1800s, where weary travelers and local cowboys gathered for a drink, a game of cards, and a brief moment of rowdy frontier companionship. Horse-drawn carriages and busy pedestrians fill the streets of 1903 New York City, capturing the frantic energy and early morning light of a metropolis rapidly growing into the greatest and most iconic city in the world. Standing before their modest home, a Native American sharecropper and his family pose with quiet pride, reflecting a life of hard work and deep connection to the land during a challenging era of American history. At 100 years old, William Hutchings sits for a portrait in 1864, on a living bridge to the American Revolution, whose weary eyes had seen the very birth of a nation and its greatest internal struggle. In a charming White House moment in 1983, Nancy Reagan takes a seat on Mr. T's lap, blending high-stakes politics with pop culture fun to create one of the most memorable and festive holiday images. In a quiet gesture of humanity amidst the Cold War, an East German soldier passes a single flower through the Berlin Wall in 1989, a small act that foreshadowed the monumental fall of the barrier. Years before his comedic genius took the world by storm, a 10-year-old Jack Black smiles for the camera in 1979, already possessing the spark of mischievous energy that would eventually make him a beloved global star. Buried beneath the dirt of a California backyard, two kids discovered a 1974 Ferrari dyno in 1978, sparking a bizarre mystery of insurance fraud and hidden treasure that remains one of the strangest finds in history. Standing beside a portrait of her younger self in 1945, a teenage Shirley Temple reflects on the incredible journey of her childhood, transitioning from the world's most famous little girl into a sophisticated and talented woman. cradled in his nanny's arms in 1947 Zanzibar. On a baby named Farouk Bulsara begins his life, long before he would take the name Freddie Mercury and conquer the world with his voice and legendary stage presence. Surrounded by his feline friends, Mark Twain found a kindred spirit in the independent nature of cats, believing that a shared love for these animals was the truest foundation for a lasting and honest human friendship. In the dusty heat of 1925 Dallas, on a busy street scene captures the rapid growth of the Texas city, where early automobiles and classic storefronts signaled the beginning of a modern and bustling urban future. From a rooftop in 1955, Las Vegas tourists watch a distant mushroom cloud rise over the desert, a chillingly casual observation of atomic power that turned the terrifying dawn of the nuclear age into a spectacle. Suspended over the fairgrounds in 1923, a couple shares a thrill on an old-fashioned zip line, proving that the human desire for a rush of adrenaline and a bird's-eye view is a truly timeless part of fun. Battling the fury of the Southern Oceans in 1920, the crew of the Garthsnade climbs the rigging to strike sails, showcasing the raw courage and physical strength required to navigate the world's last great commercial sailing ships. Resting on a massive unexploded naval shell in 1944, Private First Class Raymond Hubert pauses to clean his shoes, a quiet moment of routine maintenance amidst the heavy and constant dangers of the battle for Saipan. Bidding a final silent farewell to Ebbets Field in 1960, legendary catcher Roy Campanella looks back at the hallowed ground where he made history, marking the end of an era for Brooklyn's most beloved baseball team. In a remarkable display of animal intelligence, Jack the baboon operates the railroad signals in 1885 South Africa, faithfully assisting his disabled companion and never once making a single mistake during his years of service. With precision and pride, women workers assemble the nose sections of Douglas bombers in 1942, proving that the industrial might of the American home front was fueled by the skill and dedication of a new workforce. Rounding the treacherous Cape Horn for the very last time in 1949, the Pamir cuts through the waves as a majestic relic of the sailing age, marking the final chapter for the world's commercial wind-driven ships. Tucked into a basket in 1939, the small terrier known as Toto prepares for her iconic role in The Wizard of Oz, unknowingly becoming one of the most famous and beloved animal stars in cinematic history. Framed by the lush greenery of Oregon in 1918, a bridge spans the misty heights of Multnomah Falls, a timeless scene of natural beauty that has captivated travelers and hikers for over 100 spectacular years. Cradling her young son and heir, Prince Charles, our youthful Queen Elizabeth II shares a tender moment in 1949, capturing a private glimpse into the family life of the woman who would soon define an era. In 1925, sculptor Gutzon Borglum examines a detailed model of Mount Rushmore, revealing an ambitious original design that featured the presidents with full torsos and hands long before the granite faces were carved into eternity. Amidst the bittersweet shadows of exile, Mohammad Reza Shah reflects on a final letter from Queen Soraya, the tragic love of his life whose presence remained a lingering ghost within the silent halls of his memory. In a surreal moment of natural curiosity during the 1982 Falklands War, a solitary penguin stands perfectly to attention beside a British soldier, offering a brief and peaceful distraction from the heavy realities of modern combat. Protesting the world from the comfort of their pillows, John Lennon and Yoko Ono wait for their bed to be made in 1969, blending domestic routine with a radical message of peace that captivated a generation. With a giant carved pumpkin and wide-eyed wonder, children in the 1920s embraced the playful mystery of Halloween, capturing a timeless moment of autumn joy before the holiday became a massive and modern commercial spectacle. Reflecting on the nature of truth in his 1904 notebook, Mark Twain offers a sharp warning about following the crowd, urging us to pause and reflect whenever we find ourselves comfortably aligned with the powerful majority. Witness a rare winter miracle in 1977 as palm trees are dusted with white, marking the first and only time in recorded history that snow fell on Miami, turning the tropical paradise into a frozen wonderland. Catching the wind with a daring spirit of invention, Wilbur Wright glides through the North Carolina air in 1903, mastering the invisible currents of the sky and bringing humanity one step closer to the dream of flight. Walking through the London streets in 1922, 18-year-old inventor H. Day wears a radio hidden beneath his top hat, showcasing a remarkably early and stylish vision of the portable wireless technology that would soon change everything. Basking in the golden sunlight of 1956, Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller cruised toward Connecticut in their Thunderbird convertible, capturing a fleeting moment of glamorous romance between the screen icon and the brilliant American playwright. In 1976, young hockey players in Khanty-Mansiysk braved temperatures dropping to -40 degrees, their passion for the game burning brighter than the bitter Siberian cold that froze everything around them. A Russian survivor at Buchenwald stands face to face with his former captor, his accusing finger aimed directly at the Nazi guard whose cruelty once ruled their lives, now powerless before justice. Helldivers from Bombing Squadron 87 soar in tight formation above the Pacific in May 1945, their engines roaring off the deck of USS Ticonderoga as victory against Japan drew closer. Salvador Allende grips the AK-47 gifted by Raúl Castro in 1971, unaware that this very rifle would become the weapon he turned upon himself during Chile's darkest hour 2 years later. Sam Houston gazes into the lens in 1856, his weathered face carrying the weight of a republic. He helped forge a legacy carved into the very soul of Texas that would outlive him. In Seattle, 1917, inspectors from the Department of Weights and Measures publicly condemned dishonest scales, their destruction a powerful warning that cheating customers would no longer be tolerated in an honest marketplace. Scotland Yard stands imposing in 1922, its walls holding secrets of countless investigations, a fortress where detectives piece together mysteries that would define justice in the heart of London for generations. Senator Robert Reynolds of North Carolina poses with his so-called alien eradicator slingshot in May 1937, his theatrics captured by Margaret Bourke-White, revealing the absurd xenophobia gripping American politics at the time. A Serbian farmer plows his field in 1999 as NATO bombs fall across Yugoslavia during Operation Allied Force. His determination to continue living and working a quiet act of defiance against the destruction. Alodzi Purkowski, 41, and his 14-year-old son, Ferdinand, gather firewood together in the Italian mountains in 1944. There, a bond unbroken, even as war raged across Europe's survival, depending on each other. Sheep graze peacefully near Australia's old Parliament House in Canberra in 1940, an image of rural tranquility existing side by side with the seat of government as the nation faced war abroad. The Sheriff Department displays its arsenal at the Orange County Fair in California. In 1962, a proud exhibition of law enforcement power meant to reassure citizens that order would always prevail in their community. Chiro Ishii, the man who directed Unit 731's horrific experiments, smiles among his former members at a post-war reunion, free from prosecution thanks to a deal exchanging his knowledge for immunity from justice. William Freeze Green's silver gelatin photographs from 1886 capture his pioneering experiments in motion analysis, each frame a stepping stone toward the invention of cinema that would transform storytelling and art forever after. Simeon Cox of Silver Apples performs on his homemade synthesizer in 1968, the oscillators, salvaged from World War II radio jamming equipment, now creating revolutionary sounds that would shape electronic music for decades ahead. Frederick Grant Banting stands in uniform in Toronto around 1915 years before co-discovering insulin, his military service during both World Wars, showing that his courage extended far beyond the boundaries of the laboratory.